I don't know what the day is.
I just said it was the 12th.
Today's March 12th. Welcome. My milk expires today.
It's not going to be a speed run. There were a lot of people that were like, "Oh my God, no speed run." So,
whoa, slow down there, Speedy Gonzalez.
It's
Take
time
it
for
easy.
we need some banter today.
That's a risky milk.
Well,
No, I mean it's fine. It's just I noticed today that the date is the 12th, so I got to finish it before then.
we don't want to say like, if you're a patron, we're probably going to be more likely to do what you ask than not a patron. I'm just saying, it's not guaranteed. There's no guarantee. Like, don't think you can
There's
ask
a lot
for
of people,
things.
both patrons and YouTube comments, who mentioned that they preferred the longer format.
Well, let's just put it like this.
Although the engagement was higher.
Well, let's put it like this. If you liked the speedier format, you were outvoiced. Your lack of commitment to the comment section has cost you speedier content.
And now we're here, and it's like 70 degrees outside and sunny. And we're going to do a longer
60.
format.
We're going to have to do this in the afternoons one weekday. Don't want to do it on Friday because then the news will be even more stale.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind doing it during the week. It'd be nice to have
Oh,
Sundays.
yeah, LTX. I'm going to LTX. Chris is not going because wedding, and Ryan's not going because Canada.
I would love to go.
Don't blame the Canadians. I just don't give a shit.
Ryan's not a real social person. And that would be a very social event. But Wendell's going.
I love you all.
So if you're on the fence about going, maybe you should go if you want to go see Wendell.
There's a lot of people that are going to LTX, and it's also like DreamHack, and it's like it's turned into an event. It's not just some random bozos in a warehouse.
That's a joke about something else. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, also, this episode is apparently sponsored by Nestle Pure
I don't
Life
have one.
because,
The best water.
I don't know, we somehow ended up with it in the shot. It's the reverse osmosis. It's not really sponsored by
That's
Nestle.
all we drink in this office.
Nestle would be unhappy with us because we would say that Nestle is an evil company, and yet we drink their water.
I will accept slavery for such delicious water.
No.
And so will you, because you drink it.
I drink it occasionally. I have a water filter at home.
It does.
Ooh.
Ooh.
The most fancy thing is to like pour this into a Keurig, and it's just like, really, have we've
That's what we do, though. Like, I was instructed by our office manager, do not use tap water in the Keurig. Use
Because the hard water is bad
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Turns out that nobody likes drinking. Like if there's like this crusty, it looks like
the
something
minerals.
from SpongeBob SquarePants in the bottom of the
minerals,
thing.
Marie.
Listen, that's the beauty. That's not everybody in the world can live like this. We must defend our position. It's crazy as Cortez wants to take this lifestyle away from us. And you know what else is unique to the American experience? It's Mr. Ajit Pai.
Ajit Pai's rosy broadband deployment claim may be based on a gigantic error. So I can't believe I didn't put this together, but we reported on this. There was an ISP that filed this report that was like, look, we got coverage everywhere. We're great. Woo. It was one ISP that single-handedly moved the needle. One of Ajit Pai's claims was that broadband speeds rose 25%, or the places where you could get 25 megabit, there were 25% more year over year. But it was just one ISP claiming that they offered service when in fact they did not.
They've admitted it. And they said they wanted to fix it, but they blamed the government shutdown for not being able to. Somehow,
Oh, of course.
you couldn't make that phone call.
That's a convenient scapegoat that keeps coming up for them, doesn't it?
Right.
So Ajit Pai it's worse. Like the broadband deployment was worse because they don't have to spend money, because why would they? It's a captive audience.
Significantly worse. Like, this is not, it wouldn't have just been a statistical aberration. It was, what was it, like 30 million, 20 million, 30 million? Just absolutely wrong.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like 24.9.
Another thing that Ajit Pai won't like to hear is his record keeping has been put into question.
May violate federal law, in fact.
That is literally the headline.
House to FCC's Ajit Pai, your record keeping may violate federal law. Oh.
This is a weird one. They didn't say how.
Well, I think that this has to. You know how there have been a ton of FOIA requests around internal communications, and they've just stonewalled, where it's like, hey, tell us about how you responded to this, and hey, you remember how the attorneys general are suing you in New York about that whole impersonation thing? Can you tell us what API keys were used? Which, by the way, we're getting some data on that. We haven't reported on that because it's still kind of a developing story, but there have been 6 or 7 instances like that, and Ajit Pai's FCC's like, oh, and that you can't do that as a federal agency. You have to be able to respond to freedom of information requests, and they're not, because it's embarrassing and corruptive.
I like to imagine it's just like tons of Post-it notes. Like it's not actually filed at all.
Yeah, it's just like there's a post-it note on the IT director, like the guy that got fired. It's just on his desk, and it's like the bad men have attacked the server, and it's like, what evidence do you have? It's like, I
There's a
post-it note
post-it note. No, I'm thinking like Charlie's Wall from Always Sunny.
with the yarn.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think they're that creative at the FCC.
No.
They've been cornered. The only way out of this is if they like fake a data breach or like a server's crashed and they lost the data. That's really the only way out for them at this point, because it seems pretty clearly criminal wrongdoing.
Nah, nothing's gonna happen to them. Nobody's gonna cry out for that. Everybody that matters, all the lobbyists, love them, so nothing will happen. Also, nothing will happen based on the government keeping a secret database of dissidents. What do you say? China? No, not China.
I was going to say we should play Guess the Country, but this is coming from NBC San Diego. This
San Diego.
leaked documents show the U.S. government tracking journalists and immigration advocates through a secret database.
Well, it's not so secret now, is it?
So it turns out people that were going to Mexico, this whole caravan thing, it seemed like they were detained an awful lot, and it turns out there was a reason, and it was because the U.S. authorities and Mexican authorities were keeping a database, or the U.S. was instructing Mexico, or vice versa. And yeah, that's not a thing you're supposed to be able to do, as I understand the Constitution.
Their excuse is all these people were present at some sort of border violence when that first caravan showed up. They had like a riot or something. And because there was violence involved, it was okay to keep. But these people weren't involved in the violence. Some of them were just taking pictures of it and reporting on it. So
As one does as a journalist.
it's not okay to keep a secret database on that. But again, nothing will happen. And nothing happening is a theme in all of the U.S. news this week, because remember when New York kicked Charter out of their state and we were all like, wow, they're actually doing something.
Good guy, New York.
Well, guess what? They never actually did anything.
New York has not followed through on an order to kick Charter out of state. When Ars Technica reached out for comment, they were like, oh.
They paid us a lot of money though, and like we just need that money with the Amazon deal not falling working out. Like
They gave him an extension.
They're quote unquote negotiating. So
Oh.
I imagine that means somebody's getting
paid.
a nice little monthly payment.
Yeah.
And they do not want to wrap that up anytime soon. This story, I got to tell you, I almost shed a little bit of a tear, but I'm not going to tell you why till after. We'll see how closely you read this.
Chelsea Manning
see this
jailed
one,
for
sorry.
refusing to testify on WikiLeaks. So this has to do with like the whole. It's not really to do like the prosecutor gave her immunity so that she could testify because they're investigating this whole like Trump, Russia, WikiLeaks thing. And she said, "Look, at my court-martial hearing, I already said everything there is to say. Anything that you need from that, you can get here. I'm not going to say anything else." And so they put her in jail for contempt.
But Zur was actually protesting the secret court.
Oh yeah, because it's a grand jury investigation. So the way that it works here in the U.S., you have a grand jury investigation, and in a grand jury investigation, like all this evidence is presented in secret court to a jury, which is supposedly normal people, and the normal people are like, "Yeah, this sounds like maybe a law has been violated," and then you actually go to trial. So this is like prelude to actually accusing somebody of wrongdoing.
Shim will be incarcerated until he admits and agrees to testify, or until the dissolution of the grand jury. Now here's what caused me to choke up a little bit. The excuse given for not incarcerating but granting home arrest was gender affirming medical techniques being required on a daily basis. Think about what that means. The judge ruled federal marshals will be responsible for performing those acts. Those poor federal marshals. Imagine what they're going to have to go through.
Wouldn't it just be giving them a hormone supplement?
If reassignment surgery happened, right? That
Okay.
actually happened? You have to prevent the wound from closing.
Oh. I don't know enough about. how
Welcome
that
to the
works.
Marshal Service.
I didn't think about that.
Surely
Speaking
they have
of
a doctor for that.
Speaking of lunatics, Lady Pocahontas has demanded that we break up the big tech companies.
So I read this, and Elizabeth Warren calls to break up Google, Facebook, and Amazon. I read this, and all I read was like the delusional ramblings of a very out of touch lady.
She's got some points. It's funny because some of the people that they asked to comment on this, some of the experts, were like, well, bless her heart. It's in the right place. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about.
Bless her heart. They're all Southern people who comment.
Bless her heart is the best insult.
Yeah, it really
because
is.
It sounds so good, but it really is just calling you an idiot.
Or just bless it.
The first half of what she's complaining about are things that are actually things the current incumbent ISPs are doing. Like the whole like controlling the market and being able to redirect this and that and all this kind of stuff. There's not like if you're going to make that argument, a better argument would be those arguments for like Comcast and Charter and such as your ISP, because you really don't have a choice. You can use DuckDuckGo as a search engine. Increasingly, that's less true. I mean, that's probably less true than it was 5 or 6 years ago. There are less competent search engines now than there were 5 or 6 years ago.
Why invest in it if you're
Yeah.
always just going to be replaced by Google?
But you can't ever get away from the tracking.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if she understands that.
No.
At least not, on a technical level that would.
She doesn't
further that
understand like the
argument.
separation of the different technologies. I mean, that's pretty clear. It's also really horrifying because she's going to try to set up laws that will ultimately end up being written by these companies, which will just cement their position, as has happened for the last 20 or 30 years in everything involving technology.
Call me cynical, but I don't really think that has anything to do with this announcement. I think this has to do with something that's going to happen next year.
Somebody's run for president? Is that what you're saying?
Could be. Now, this next story.
Our first Native American president.
Wouldn't that be something? I'm torn about this story because, I'm on one hand, I always want to err on the side of like, let innovation happen. It's a business. You don't have to participate. But on the other side, cashlessness is a scourge on the world that must be stopped. So I feel like, what was the king that cut the baby in half?
Solomon.
Solomon, yeah.
Sorry, Amazon. Philadelphia bans cashless stores. But the article goes on to explain that this may not really affect Amazon. Amazon says their stores are good for anybody, but Philadelphia was like, just make it only for Amazon Prime members because things like Costco are fine.
No, here's the thing. So that kind of makes sense, right? Well, actually, the argument I think that Amazon would make is it's not for everybody. It's just for people who have Amazon accounts, right?
Could be.
So this catches on. It becomes the new norm. It cuts down on all kinds of overhead. It helps with shoplifting, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, there's a sign-up terms of service kiosk in every Walmart and Meijer and Kroger. So you literally cannot shop. And there's going to be a connect with Facebook button. And that's all kinds of horror.
They're already recording you at Walmart. Have you noticed that? I don't know if you've been to Walmart recently.
You mean on the camera system?
No, like if you go to the self-checkout kiosk, there's webcams that are pointing at you the entire time you're scanning.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because they have to try to fight against swapping out the UPCs.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of nuts. The thing though is that the loyalty cards affect the price so much that most people have. I mean, you have a choice not to join the loyalty program, but they're still tracking you. So why not save the money? And the price difference is sometimes scary.
Yeah.
It's like, I would love to have some $5 Oreos that are $3 off if I am a member of the loyalty program.
But imagine if that becomes join or just don't shop here.
And then all of a sudden it's like, I have to homestead, but I work full time.
But where are you
can't
going to get the
raise bees.
tools with which to homestead?
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to become a smith with stone tools?
You have to be like that guy from Primitive Technology.
The day that Tractor Supply requires a membership in order to buy stuff is the day that I
Listen, son, I ain't got a Facebook page. I just need my Tractor Supply.
Well, make your mark here, and Billy Bob's going to follow you around. Write down what you look at.
You can just buy it. Like, this is unrelated. You guys wanted longer news. Here you go. I had to buy what is it? The kennel cough vaccine for my dog. They just let any asshole walk in there and buy that. I administered kennel cough vaccine to my dog.
How would you abuse that?
I don't know. It was like locked up in a freezer, but like
Well,
I
that's
could just go in and buy it. Like,
that's to keep it
Yeah.
like useful, right?
But it's still locked. Like I couldn't just go up to the freezer and like open it and get the kennel cough vaccine.
Well, you can still get those fish antibiotics, I think.
Yeah.
They're trying to stop you.
They've got other stuff too, like all the basic puppy vaccines and stuff. You can just get all that.
Every now and again, I go to the Tractor Supply place to buy very, very large gauge needles for the purpose of depositing solder paste in very precise places on a circuit board.
Massive amounts of heroin.
That's what they assume. Yeah, they're like. So I've taken to bringing in my little canister of solder paste to be like, this is, this is not just for injecting animals.
Like they would know what that
Don't
was,
give in to them. Just like while you're getting it, just scratch. Like, oh, I need this.
Like they would know.
I'm sure they see plenty of that.
No, I mean like if you brought in the thing of thermal paste, he's like, no, it's for this, and they're like,
what kind of meth is that?
So, well, you can Google this and be like, oh yeah, you can use large diameter needles to, yeah. Okay.
That was on that HBO meth documentary. One of the things that the meth users used to describe how good the meth was is like it was thick. It's like, oh yeah, this is real thick. It's gonna be good.
I don't know. I'd never really thought about what texture meth was.
Put some cornmeal in there when you're mixing it up.
That is a weird thought. I thought it was like a icy sort of texture.
Well, when you shoot it, you have to break it down.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
You can't just stuff crystals.
Well, I was thinking, maybe it's like rock candy. I don't know.
You also have to break that down to shoot it.
There goes the monetization for this week.
Well, let's talk about Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI. He's saying something that he said probably a million times at this point, and he's going to keep saying it.
Christopher Wray, we can't let criminals hide behind encryption.
I don't know that he has that accent.
Speaking at the RSA conference, Wray acknowledges the topic is provocative. That was supposed to be a diminutive accent. Like, just...
That was more of a southern judge.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, maybe that works.
Like the accent you used in the Intel court case.
It's like, I can't be bothered to understand how encryption works. All I can do is impotently demand this.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's so impotent.
Yeah, I mean, if we get those laws passed, I mean, the whole, like, nobody really has come clean. Like, a lot of the encryption disasters, like the OPM hack, that's a self-inflicted wound. It's because we put backdoors in our own encryption. Secret backdoors.
The N.S.A., they've given up on the incendiary program. I mean, that was a lot of years ago now. And they say they're going to shut it down, which is not really any kind of news at all.
Disputed N.S.A. phone program is shut down, an aide says. That's not really shut down. See, the N.S.A. no longer has to collect this data. They can just get it directly from carriers. And that's actually more legal than this previous thing, which was, not exactly legal, because the carriers collect that data, and the carriers collecting that data is totally fine. And then the N.S.A. collecting that data from carriers is totally fine. Whereas if they directly collect that data themselves, maybe that's not okay.
I don't see... Do you really think that there's a lot of criminals still talking on the phone at a high level like this?
No.
I watch TV shows now, and they'll be on the phone talking about murders, and it's like, come on, there's no believability here. These are supposed to be hardened criminals.
You text it with a bunch of emojis. Like
no, they literally like get on the phone like, he killed her. Like, why would you say that?
Get on the phone. It's like, they went dancing together. It ended
I'm
badly.
winking.
Well, even code names. I mean, you got to come up with a better system. It's ridiculous. I read this and I was amazed. I was like, how? There is no way American law enforcement would let this fly. And then it turns out this is from Canada.
Google Maps adding photo radar warnings for drivers. The Canadians went on to say, this is great because normally we only have photo radar like going one direction, like say northbound at a four-way intersection. And Google's going to give you a warning from all four directions. So this is actually better than us just placing 4 cameras.
But more importantly, they only have a limited supply of them. So they always move them to the scene of the last accident or high accident areas. And they're like, yeah, we use these things to try to stop accidents, not to generate revenue. So we're fine with this.
No, I did notice, Wendell and I had to go to a meeting the other day, and we were using Google Maps to get there. And I noticed it does track your speed in Google Maps. It'll tell you the speed you're supposed to be going.
Oh, it's telling everybody the speed.
But I wonder if they were considering building that feature into like the American version. Then it was like, oh, no.
The modern car, like my car's new, so it probably has the broadcast. So the speed and direction is being broadcast at all times out of your car.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So data brokers, they're kind of secretive. I mean, we know Facebook and Google and all those, but those are first-party data brokers. They vacuum up your data directly. What about the third parties, the people who just buy and sell it like an open market? Well, we've learned a little bit about them.
Fast Company has this article here. The data brokers quietly buying and selling your personal information. Oh, we're going to learn a lot more about these data brokers come the security segment. ... Foreshadowing.
But this is out of Vermont because everybody incorporates in Vermont. Here's the Venn diagram of doom that shows all of them, and then there's a big list at the bottom here. If you go to the one tab.
Vermont has this new law where companies have to register and declare how they're using your personal information. So all of these companies that are incorporated or do business in Vermont are having to declare what they're doing with customer data. So this has been really interesting.
We've made it to the P's.
Still going.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot.
The other thing about this list is you can actually go into these things and there's an opt-out. But every one of them has their individual opt-out program.
It's some of them, it didn't seem to me like there were an actual opt-out form. Some of them was just like a PDF that you fill out, and it's like they'll tell you what information they have on you, but there wasn't, like, some of them had an opt-out thing that's like, I would like my information.
Well, I think you can take it further, though. Like, there's a legal requirement.
Oh, okay.
So you get that information, and then you could go through some stuff. You probably end up having to hire a lawyer.
I guess some of those would be like, hey, I must fill this out, and just by virtue of having gotten this form, you're wanting to opt out. But some of the forms didn't seem like they would let you do that.
This story, after reading this story, I imagined, like 2 paragraphs in, the CDC being one of those short haircut soccer moms complaining at the school. It's like, my child's going to get hurt playing soccer. It's not right.
The CDC is studying a rise in e-scooter injuries for the first time as startups expand to more cities. E-scooter injuries?
Electric scooter.
But why?
Because...
Listen, I might scrape my knee. And
yeah,
that's a
people
lawsuit.
fall down off of scooters and they hurt themselves.
And it's your own fault for riding a scooter.
No, Krista, this is the public's fault. The government needs to save us from these scooters.
Is the CDC investigating bicycle injuries or
no? Well,
they're wondering if they're infectious.
Here's an example of the terrible. So she's never going to get over that.
How? My curious question is like, how bad do you have to mess up riding a scooter to fall on your face like that and scrape up your lip?
Pretty bad. But I'm sure it's common. However, you just got better at riding a scooter. You just leveled up. You're not going to do that again.
Unless it's like one of those little tiny, like, what are the Razor scooters?
Well, that's what they are.
A single pebble will throw you forward.
Did you see the picture? But they're
electric though, right?
Electric powered. So there's one. It's basically an electric razor.
The tires are more beefy on that, though. On the original Razor, they were just, like, super skinny. The tiniest pebble would throw you off.
Yeah, but we're talking about people who probably haven't ridden a 2-wheel vehicle for 20 years.
Yeah.
So, just get over it. Get up, get back on that horse, is what I'm saying. You gotta go to the ER, you gotta go to the ER. Ransomware is just becoming more and more prevalent, and there's really, no one's found a solution. So a lot of the times, you just got to pay the ransom. And people learn that the hard way.
Georgia County has paid a whopping $400,000 to get rid of a ransomware infection. The county hired a cybersecurity consultant to negotiate the ransom fee with a hacker group. It turns out that they've been trying to recover their stuff for months, and they haven't had any luck. So they paid the ransom so they could start decrypting stuff.
How much do you think the cybersecurity consultant costed on top of that?
Well, that's
probably about $100K.
Yeah. Well, they admitted that like it would take us to replace the equipment and all the man hours to put it all back together, plus the lost records. It's going to cost way more than $500,000. So let's just do it.
You think we'll have the same headline in like 6 months to a year where it's like they got their stuff again because they just painted a giant target on their back?
Could be that you
don't negotiate with terrorists.
Tracked them down to Eastern Europe. There's like an Eastern European group they think is responsible for all of these, and they specifically go after the municipality targets because they'll usually pay, and they usually pay a lot of money.
And they're usually a disaster when it comes to their technology.
Yeah. So if you're looking to get into the ransomware game, pro criminal tip: go after the big fish. Now let's talk about China for a little while, because you got to talk about China, right? Every
Make
time.
us feel better about America.
And when you talk about China, you got to talk about Huawei.
These Chinese tech giant Huawei sues the U.S. in Texas in pushback against security risk claims. So this is cool. I mean, Huawei is basically saying, hey, look, you need to put up or shut up because you're hurting their business. And they're doing it in Texas. So cool. Let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, and pretty good argument. Hey, listen, you're going to talk that shit? Prove it. Or at least give us some concrete charges that we can refute. You've done neither.
One of my favorite quotes in this was from their lawyer, was like, the Huawei lawyer, and the Huawei lawyer basically says, like, look, one of our foreign nationals is held in China, and Trump has said that he will release her if we can get a favorable trade deal. Doesn't that make this completely politically motivated? Like, anything else you say is not credible. And it's like,
I mean, he's not wrong.
I don't think a local court will accept responsibility for Trump.
No.
They'll just be like, listen, I didn't vote for Trump. Actually, they're Texas. They probably did. China spying, we know they do it. All this political stuff, it doesn't matter. China's spying because everybody's spying. China's just good at it. And are they so good at it that they have this brilliant new technique? I don't know. It seems like hyperbole.
U.S. tech firms fear China could be spying on them by using power cords, a report says. So I saw a thing where a guy put Wi-Fi inside of an iPhone charging cable, and you couldn't tell. It was amazing. So I believe this.
Well, they have talked about, there was that Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
It's like, don't plug into public power sources. So it's, all you need is power, right?
Yeah.
And a power cable is always going to be plugged in, so why not?
It's not as dire as it might sound if you have, a device that is embedded in the power cable, because you would have to interface with everything else wirelessly. So you might have Bluetooth low energy or Wi-Fi or possibly even cellular or possibly like something in the parking lot. But yeah, I mean, this would be easy to screen for. If these companies are really concerned about this, especially the larger companies, it would be real easy for them to screen all their power cords.
You got to do like the kids' backpacks at school. You got to make them all transparent.
Well, that was how Apple did it. Like Apple had like the G5s, and they came with transparent cords, which yellowed over time, and you could see like the connections breaking down and like turning a weird brown color.
Even better because you got to buy a new one.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is
Designed that way.
It's getting
You're
dangerously
creating
close to a
jobs.
fire hazard.
Yeah, creating jobs. That's beautiful. Krista, what do you think about this?
I like almost everything that the Intercept designs.
Pretty good stock photo.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like their site looks good.
So is this saying that like Google is split in half over whether or not to do Dragonfly? Is that what that's communicating?
Yeah,
And it's also done in the Chinese colors, which is cool.
you're right.
Way to pick up on that, man.
I'm good at colors.
What if? No, I think it's McDonald's colors. I think that's what they were going for.
Could you tell us the headline?
Google employees uncover ongoing work on censored China search.
So this is Dragonfly, and it turns out it's like,
Surprising no one.
well, I mean, you read the article and they're like,
I think didn't they just remove the people who didn't like it?
yeah.
Like that's pretty much they were like,
Well-
oh, we won't work on it anymore. We're just gonna move you to another project. Also, we're gonna have your cubicle mate come over to this division now.
But
Don't
the
worry
thing
about it."
is, what they're basing this on, the complaint on, is there are ongoing changes to those code bases, which they still have visibility to.
Yeah, so there could be as few as 100 people working on it now, whereas more people were working on it before. It's not production ready, but to say that production has halted entirely is not accurate.
Now, Google admits that they were going to finish up whatever they were working on, which also doesn't speak to bury it and never let it see the light of day again.
Yeah, it's definitely not a mea culpa of like, oh, I didn't think about it, we should totally not do this. It's more like, this isn't right now. Maybe later.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common, especially in stuff like this in the tech world, where we can't get away with this right now, but everything changes year to year, so we'll just wait till the time is more opportune. China's playing the long game, so is Google. They'll get it eventually. We'll see it. And speaking of governments behaving badly, how about Egypt?
Egypt government used Gmail third-party apps to phish activists. Cairo government targeted local human rights defenders, media and civil organizers, staff. So this was a very sophisticated. Actually, we're stealing OAuth tokens. Was this the OAuth token article?
Yeah. They were getting you to. They would phish you into clicking an illegitimate OAuth.
Yeah.
Then they'd steal your token, and then they'd use that token to make changes.
Once they've got your token, even when you change your password, their apps would still have access. You'd have to go in and revoke their permission, which most people don't know to do. So hopefully they know to do it now.
This probably wouldn't be super effective at stealing stuff, but because it's the government, all they want to do is just disrupt the dissidents, then super useful for that.
Or at least track them down or get access to their mailbox to scan their emails to be like, confirmed dissident.
Harsh. Well, I'm glad that the U.S. government would never have like a secret list or something like that.
A secret list of journalists to harass at the border? That would never do such a thing.
A secret database that's not so secret?
That would be terrible. Putin. It's always good to talk about Putin, right? You know, I feel like Putin's not in the news enough. It's like Russia doesn't get talked about enough in the U.S. news.
Putin on the blitz. Putin wants his own internet. A new law would create a single command post from which authorities can manage and halt information flows across Russia and cyberspace. So this article goes on. It seems like they're quoting Putin saying, man, you know, China's got that whole great firewall thing locked up. We need something like that in Russia. So, and then Putin is actually saying that this would defend against outside attackers. So it's like people might be attacking Russian interests. But if Russia had a kill switch for the rest of the internet, then that wouldn't happen. Which is not wrong, but it also opens the door for a lot of really other terrible things.
But that's not
He's
really,
fine with that.
in practice, that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they've already actually done this. They have like a Muslim minority part of Russia, which, again, the mirror to China is eerie there. And they had some riots and some, you know, those people got a little out of control. So they turned off mobile for everywhere
In that area.
They did so by going to each provider and being like, you will shut this down, or Ivan will come to your house. And so they shut it down, but they're like, you know what? That was inefficient. We need a better way. So they're talking about putting filter boxes everywhere. Like, we're going to have 5G. They're going to have filter boxes. And the filter boxes call home and report back statistics, but they also are just a kill switch in case you want to turn a geographic region off.
Oh, we're having an outage in your area right now.
When people think of the Ivans in the world, what are they going to do for work?
What do you mean? They're going to keep
breaking people's fingers?
Yeah.
You never run out of usefulness for them.
No.
There's always going to be somebody getting out of line. And speaking of getting out of line, the French think that the big tech companies are a little out of line in terms of their tax payments.
French tax on internet giants could yield 500 million euros per year. This is seems kind of greedy. Like, you know, the Reuters people are trying to outline this as like, this is tax revenue from commerce transactions that occur in France. So we should get a cut of that. But really, in the article, when you look at the details, it seems like this is a tax grab. Like, what are we going to do? Like, how does this even work?
I'll just pull out. Let them use the Russian internet. We don't need them.
They also seem to be complaining about French companies that had sold to foreign interests, and they're like, well, we got to tax them double. It doesn't say that, but it's like,
it's the implication.
Is that what you're saying here? It's like, because they're no longer French, we really need to tax them? Because that seems not exactly.
That seems pretty classic France.
Yeah.
Now, Krista, I'm not saying this, but I'm saying that you have been described in business terms as overly aggressive. So would you feel okay if we zap your brain a little bit, try to dial that back?
No, I wouldn't like that. But in Spain, prisoners' brains are being electrically stimulated in the name of science. Wow.
I like the word neurointervention.
It sounds
makes
so
it
helpful.
sound, yeah.
Didn't we have this before? Wasn't it called electroshock therapy?
I don't think I could do my job as a UX designer if I
That's
was
what they
electrically stimulated.
remember the retarded Kennedy daughter that embarrassed them, and they were
What
just
was her
like,
name?
"Go scoop that shit out." That's
Oh.
she cannot sully the Kennedy name. This is a little bit less invasive. They don't even have to install probes. They just gently, as they describe it, shock the frontal cortex of your brain. And the belief is, makes you less aggressive.
They shock that stubbornness right on out.
Aggressiveness, not stubbornness. And here's the thing, they're doing it on prisoners. And these are volunteer prisoners.
Willing, of course, 100% willing.
Kind of like those prisoners in China that volunteered their livers.
Spain, what are you doing? I'm starting to understand why that one little part of Spain wanted to not be part of Spain anymore.
I don't think that was probably over this, but
This will be interesting because you got to, like, is it possible? I don't think it's possible that they could target aggressiveness without affecting everything else.
Oh yeah, no, they totally will. It's totally just electroshock therapy from a long time ago, which messes up a lot of stuff. But
And
I mean, it probably would make you less aggressive, but who knows what other side effects?
you know, one
get.
of the cool things is they have. Have you ever heard of that surgery where they can go in and actually like solder off your sweat glands, like cauterize them, and stop certain parts of your body from sweating? But inevitably, your body will compensate. So, like, if they go into your underarms and turn them off, your back will just like double down.
Well,
So,
yeah, you got to get rid of that heat somehow.
Right. So I think, where does this come out? Where does this dam break? What personality trait does that become? That's going to be like a Clockwork Orange. Tim Cook. Here, so this is another story that I'm torn on, right? On one hand, Trump is an idiot, obviously. On the other hand, who should give a shit what Tim Cook's name is? No one should know Tim Cook's name.
This was actually trending on Twitter, and I was confused about why. Tim Cook is now Tim Apple, like the symbol Apple on Twitter. Okay.
Well,
Great.
the reason is because Trump, they had a meeting or something, and Trump referred to him as Tim Apple because obviously he doesn't know his name, nor does he care, which I think is brilliant. I don't think Trump did it because of that. I think Trump is just like, looks at Tim as a lower form of life. But so do I. So again, I'm so torn on this.
I don't know. That's not the worst thing in the world. But like, I just don't. Why is this a story? Why is this being picked up by media, including us?
I like to think that you have a years formed opinion of why that is, whereas in this case it might have just been idiocy.
Well, I don't ever want to know
Or
a
slip of the
CEO's
tongue.
name. You speak to me through your product. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. All of that should be behind the scenes. We should not care. And if it turns out that maybe you were like, a Nazi sympathizer in the Klan or whatever, then you don't have to worry about that being dug up. And if you're just a douchebag like Tim Cook, again, speak to me through your product. And let's not get politics involved in all this nonsense. And now we're on to the security section and start off, as we always do, with a little data leak.
800 million emails leaked online by email verification service. They've botched the headline. 800 million users have been leaked by email verification service. Your email is linked to your IP, your address. This is like a marketing database that has a zillion points of data, and it is scary. It is scary AF.
Well, also, email verification service. What is that, right? Why do you need an email verification service? Well, if you're a marketer or a criminal who has a leak, how do you know which emails are active, right? How do you know which ones to try to steal from or to sell your garbage to and which ones to ignore? Using the email verification service. They literally will just send emails to everybody and let you know who actually got it and who didn't. Terrible people all around.
They went so far as to associate multiple emails with an individual. So it's like you got the made up email for every different service. That's a good strategy. They have stuff in place to defeat it. So if you're in the EU, you could probably collect a hefty GDPR violation from this company.
That'd be cool.
We're not EU though. Doesn't affect us.
It's very sad. I mean, it is. This kind of database should not exist. It's too dangerous.
That service shouldn't exist.
Pretty much.
It doesn't serve any useful purpose in the world.
But I might get a little bit more of a conversion rate.
I must have the conversion rate.
You don't have anybody to market to, Krista.
I don't know. Well, I market for some of my clients, but it's not really the same.
Well, BuggyCow. BuggyCow, I feel like one of the better names for a security exploit.
It's literally the name. I was like, ooh, I wonder if copy on write's going to be involved. It turns out it was. Hacker brief. Google reveals BuggyCow around macOS 0-day vulnerability. So this has to do with like copy on write and a secure process reading and doing stuff from a file. It turns out if you unmount the file system, change the data, and remount it, it doesn't notify the process to create its own copy that is definitely doesn't contain anything bad. So this you could use to do privilege escalation and get full root access on macOS.
But you need some sort of exploit to get in the first place. So
yeah,
this is not really all that horrifying unless you're already infected.
macOS.
So don't get infected, whatever you do. This one was interesting. We think about email verification services and the links that marketing people will go to identify you. So how do you compare two unknown sessions and say, hey, I bet that's the same user? They've got so many tricks, and this is a really good one that Firefox is going to defeat.
Firefox to add Tor Browser anti-fingerprinting technique called letterboxing. Firefox gets another feature from the Tor Uplift project started in 2016. So basically, it looks at your window resolution and sets it to a preset resolution that fits within whatever your actual resolution is, so that they can't fingerprint you based on how you get your windows sized or placed.
Yeah, so if you were using Tor and they have completely different IP addresses with nothing comparing them, they can just look at window resolutions and time and be like, oh, that's a weird resolution. We've never had that before. Oh, look at this visitor at this other site. And oh, must be the same person, right? Well, Firefox is going to protect you.
It's another data point. That data point by itself is not all that scary, but when you combine it with a bunch of other data points, then it can be a little more user identifiable.
Spectre and Meltdown. I think we've gone maybe 4 or 5 weeks without.
It's a specter of the past coming to greet us today.
Well, it never left. It's still around, but now it's got a buddy.
All Intel chips open to the new spoiler non-Spectre attack. Don't expect a quick fix. So this is a Rowhammer-like attack, but it's exploitable from JavaScript in about 2 or 3 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah. Turns out AMD's not vulnerable. Good job, AMD.
Spoiler.
They're just like piling on top of Intel. They're just flexing all over them.
Turns out this whole Intel in their quest for performance, they might have cut some corners. They might have cut so many corners we may be dealing with a circle at this point.
I wonder how this will end.
Very badly for anybody running Intel.
Spoiler alert. Badly.
Oh, that's where that was supposed to go.
Android TV. If you've got an Android TV, you can set up your baby pictures or your puppy pictures to be your background. Isn't that sweet, Krista?
Oh, that is sweet.
Oh, but then everybody can see your nudes. Oh, Boiler Snake uses an Android TV, and he's suffering
He has a lot of
this.
nudes. He's actually nude all the time.
Well, but what he does is he puts on his little bow tie, and that's like his sexy outfit. And he takes those shots.
Yeah, it turns out Android TV bug gave users access to strangers' Google Photos. So Google has disabled the ability to view photos on Android TV while it investigates. This is probably to do with the TV not having, I would guess, I don't know. This has to do with TVs not being able to generate a good random number. So a bunch of TVs have probably generated the same token. And so when you look at the TV, like the photo thing, it's probably everybody that owns that model of TV, their pictures.
They confirmed it is everybody who owns that model of TV.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's got anything to do with random number. Why is it's 70 degrees outside? Boiler Snake, he should not be active.
It might still be cold in the basement.
Oh, yeah. Damp. It rained all day yesterday.
We will soon have to say goodbye to the snake.
He'll be gone.
We might have 1 or 2 more weeks of cold. But he's getting drowsy. He's going to bed down for the summer.
That's one of the reasons he's so unruly right now. Is if he's always on at a low rumble, it doesn't do that. But when it's gotten very cold from having been off because it's 70 degrees outside, it's like, oh no, what have you done? You have woke me up.
For our hardiness zone, I think we're 6 or 7. I think spring officially starts April 15th. You can start planting then. It's last frost. So maybe that'll be last Boiler Snake. You guys have a month. Maybe.
You come and say goodbye to him.
He can hibernate for the summer.
Remember the CEO who died mysteriously in India, and he had those crypto wallets and nobody could get into them, and it was such a good mystery? Well, it just got a lot better.
Investigators find QuadrigaCX crypto wallets were emptied before CEO's death, so they hired somebody to break into the encrypted laptop, and they got in. But the wallets were already empty.
Oh, this is really good
What a
fanfic.
twist.
Emptied months before his quote-unquote death.
The last
Is
one
he
was
dead?
emptied just days before his death.
Do you think he's dead?
No.
I don't
What
know.
do you think he's doing?
He's probably not dead.
He could be dead, and it could be somebody else. They could have arranged for him to die. Because it was in a hospital, right? I think he was getting an operation, maybe. Anyway.
Or was it?
A lot of money. So they have now confirmed people who were using this exchange and thought, well, it'll be okay when they get into these wallets, right? Nope.
Nope.
It's gone.
Gone forever.
It's over, Johnny.
It'll be interesting to see if they recover this because it's over $100 million.
Well, they can certainly tell where it went.
Yeah.
So there's going to be you think there's any money left to get the digital forensic guy to go in there and track them down?
I think at that point it's just bounty hunter country.
You can keep it if you find it.
Yeah.
Get 10%. Well, that's been government and security. Tomorrow we'll talk about business and
What was our runtime?
robot. I see a 4, I think. 45.
45 minutes. Good Lord.
You guys are welcome.
That's way over the limit.
I think 35 minutes is about the where it
Well,
should be.
engagement challenge. Way
They'll say like hours every time. Don't give them that
Some
choice.
people did like the shorter one.
Well, if you want hours, join Patreon because it's all the episodes at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, but then that's just like eating. That's like when you go on vacation, if you leave your pet a bunch of food and they just eat it all at once. Then they vomit and then they're starving.
Or if you're like, where you just eat it again.
Oh, nice. We'll end on that.
Hey, today's March 13th.
You're off to such a good start for 400 milliseconds.
But slow it down. Jesus, there's no reason to rush, Krista.
Today's March 13th. I don't have any other segue other than it's
We
March
gotta
13th.
chew this news, digest it. Gotta masticate today.
No, the Skype
Yikes.
news. No.
Well,
No
Skype.
mastication.
It's been redesigned. What do you think about the redesign, Krista?
I didn't look closely at this one.
Oh.
We have not been using Skype at our office anymore. We've switched to a different service. So, and the new service, let me just say, it is emoji 100 because it supports emojis by default. I don't have to Google the emoji I'm looking for anymore. 10 out of 10.
Womp
That's
womp.
really improved my productivity in the office.
But Skype is trash.
It is.
Yeah.
It really, really
The lagginess
is.
is what makes it annoying, and I doubt that
They've-
fixes this.
They've made some serious improvements to Skype for web, but it comes with a pretty big caveat.
Only works on Internet Explorer Edge or Internet Edge, whatever.
A Chrome. It works in Chrome.
Oh, and Chrome. It's probably because of like WebRTC. So, bang.
Leaves out a lot of people.
It does leave out a lot of people.
We'll
You
just
can-
leave out Skype.
Well, you can run the app. You don't have to use the web version. But a lot of people like the web version.
They haven't been doing a good job of maintaining the Linux version of the app either.
It's just garbage. It lags up every time. Like, you get a message and you go to switch to that tab and it just completely freezes and freaks out.
Terrible. Terrible product. And on mobile, forget it.
Basically,
It does not work on mobile. Simply does not work. Google did something very interesting. They said, we heard what our people said. Remember the people cried out and revolted and torches and pitchforks and said, pay, gender equality in pay. We demand it. Google said, okay. And then something weird happened.
They did a study, and Google found in that study that it paid men less than women for the same job. So it spent like $9 million. Is that right? To get the pay equalized. So it was a women's group that was crying out, "Hey, women aren't being paid equally." Turns out they were being overpaid.
They're right.
Do you think that the person who originally came up with the complaint was like, maybe they were just really bad at their job and they were like, they compared their salaries to two of the other people they were working with or something, and they're like, it's because I'm a woman, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. The job in question was like level 4 programmer, right? I don't know how many levels they've got, but I imagine that was a pretty high paying job.
Yeah.
So I think the women who actually know what they're doing and have those jobs probably weren't part of the crying, the loud birds
Yeah.
screaming in the nest. I think those were some entry level blue hairs who don't know the first thing about it.
Listen, I got like 300 updates on Stack Overflow. I'm like a level 9 programmer, and it's like, no, that's not how that works.
I contributed to open source by removing all gender references. I'll have you know, I have commits. Well, speaking of loud birds and really annoying people, Tesla.
Tesla has a self-driving strategy other companies abandoned years ago. Tesla has just shifted the goalpost for full self-driving technology. I read this article, so this is from Ars Technica, and the author was very careful to try to word things in such a way that it's not going to immediately anger that Tesla crowd that is like, no, full autonomous is coming soon. Because he spends like four paragraphs explaining how the definition of full autonomous has shifted using references before actually getting into the meat of what he wanted to talk about.
which is they don't have it and they're not going to have it, but they are still going to charge $3,000 for it. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So Musk has said it's self-driving. Yeah, well, you can't really say it's self-driving because it can't drive itself in all situations. But interstate, hey, listen, you're on the interstate. Totally works on the interstate.
Except you still have to monitor it.
Well, right, yeah. Now, Musk had tweeted 2 years ago in 2016 that in 2 years you would have all these crazy features like going to sleep in your car. So
No.
that deadline has passed.
That's not happening.
We don't have it.
It's almost like he kind of just arbitrarily like makes things up without regard, like without consulting his engineers or the board.
What,
Or,
Krista? Did you just say engagement challenge?
The other part I like about it is the guy goes on to talk about how there are industries that probably will do this, but it doesn't make sense from a cost perspective unless you're like you're a taxi company. And so he says that whenever fully self-driving cars materialize, it's probably going to be a taxi company first, or in limited geographic places like Arizona.
Well,
Because-
that's what Google's doing.
yeah,
well,
it seems to be almost everyone's done that because it's like you can't get a self-driving car around, a kiss your ass curve in eastern Kentucky.
yeah. His point was that until we've been doing that forever, and we've got the data, you can't have a completely autonomous self-driving car. You just can't because the other has to come first.
But then Musk would have to admit that's not going to happen with in his lifetime. I don't think he can.
Engagement challenge for this episode of the
Do
news.
you think those poor, I can't imagine being on the engineering team there and just being like, please stop saying things. Like, it's not that these are impossible things, but like, they take time. You can't just arbitrarily decide a date.
Well, I don't know if it's the engineering team that suffers for that. I think it's the board of directors
Oh, yeah.
who are pulling their hair out.
Well, the engineers probably feel that too, because it's like, oh, we need this done by then. And it's like, whoa, 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 no.
Well, it's not all bad news out of the Tesla camp, though. They do have one little nugget of good news this week.
Tesla launches a new supercharger with 1,000 mile per hour charging, better efficiency, and more. And I was like, 1,000 miles per hour? How is that describing a unit of charge?
Yeah, I had the same thought.
But then it's like, oh, you can get 1,000 miles of range per hour it spends on charge, or 100 miles in 6 minutes. Neat.
It also has a new feature where it will, if you put in your GPS, hey, take me to a supercharger, it will try to prep your battery and get the temperature at the perfect charging temperature, which
Well,
they
that's cool.
claim could save 25% of your time.
Neat.
Pretty cool. I don't care about it, but I can sort of empathize. No, I can never get in their heads. How about the Model Y?
Tesla's long-rumored Model Y crossover SUV is finally coming March 15th.
So if you want to look like a douchebag who doesn't care about the environment, but you want to still have an electric car, this is the one for you.
This is just the preview of it, I guess. They're not rolling out or anything. It's going to be just years of they're going to dump all their money into this.
Chris, I love how much you've turned against Tesla.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect me, but I don't know.
This is all we know
I
about
get so
it.
annoyed by Musk.
It's really not very descriptive, is it?
I'm not even opposed to electric cars.
This
It's
is
not a
going to
bad
be
idea.
very similar to the Model 3 with, I think it's just a better version of the 3. And it's got the hatchback because it's an SUV, but I think it's almost the same size, which is weird. So, I don't know. I guess that's exciting if you really need to let the world know how sanctimonious you are, but you have kids. A lot of kids. And a dog or something, maybe.
Or an SUV still doesn't usually have that much more seating. They need to make the Tesla minivan.
I'm sure
You could get that.
I'm sure that's in the works. Well, Tesla, we talked about last week, they were closing down the showrooms, and that was a lot of jobs. They're still open, but they all know that it's only a matter of time, and that seems to be going very poorly for morale.
It feels like a morgue. Tesla employees say morale has fallen drastically as stores close and workers are let go. Tesla blindsided many of its employees with the announcement last week it's going to close its stores and sell exclusively online.
But wait,
Tesla temporarily freezes store closures and layoffs and chaotic sales strategy change. What?
I don't think anybody knows what's going on at Tesla, including Tesla. Apparently, they're not closing the showrooms.
What?
But they are going to eventually, but not yet.
What?
If I was a salesperson there, I'd been like, I need to find another job. Stat.
Yeah, they got a quote from a woman in that article, and you can tell the Tesla employee is a subset of those people we're talking about, because her quote was like, I don't know. I mean, I've always felt so good about this because it's not just about me. It's about Tesla and the vision.
No,
like, good Lord.
they will drop you like a sack of potatoes.
And in fact,
put out your resume.
They have already prepared to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, their vision for you is unemployment.
Put out your resumes now.
Speaking of things that have no use anymore, the Disney Vault.
Rip.
Disney to close Vault for good as it moves film library to streaming service. It really wants everybody to use Disney Plus. So
this will probably work though, because people get really excited about Vault.
Well, I think this is the first time they've confirmed everything from the Vault goes on to Disney Plus at launch.
Is that Song of the South too?
No,
that be on Disney
that doesn't.
streaming?
That never happened, Krista.
that stays in the vault.
I don't know what you're talking about. Some of those early Mickey cartoons that
Yeah.
were just a little racist.
That is, those are staying in the Vault, and that is what the Vault is used for now.
How
Don't
great
they
would
have
it?
the disclaimer at the start of it? Like if you do watch it, it's like, hey, this was a different time. And
Yeah, I think they re-released it, but even that was quite a while ago at this point. I don't think they would ever get away with that. But how great would it be if there was an extra subscription option for like an extra $7.99 a month? You got the racist stuff.
oh,
You could go through some of Walt's private writings.
the real vault. Do you think they have like an interactive 3D experience of looking at his frozen head, or
You could pet it.
It's like we're going to reanimate it someday.
Wait a minute.
you've heard that conspiracy theory, right? That they made the movie Frozen so that way if you Googled Disney Frozen, it wouldn't pull up the like Frozen Walt Disney conspiracy theory.
That's a long way to go.
It is. I don't think it's true, but it makes me laugh that some people think that's true.
That is really funny.
Well, if you're a normie, this story is going to be amazing for you because you have to be a console pleb and an iPhone normie in order to get any benefit out of this.
The PS4's Remote Play update now lets you stream to iOS devices. Wait, weren't we waiting on this for Steam? Wasn't Steam supposed to have this? What's going on with Steam? I don't care about
Too busy
PlayStation.
making money.
I need Steam.
They did it. Now, what they did not do is let your Bluetooth controller connect to your iPhone.
Aww.
So it's an on-screen controller.
No.
Ew.
Bad. Well, speaking of Nintendo, it's interesting because Nintendo, it seems like they're advocating for the player, but I think what they're actually saying is, listen, idiot, you don't bleed them out all at once. You got to keep them alive.
Nintendo to smartphone game makers, you can only gouge our players for so much. So they made 40 billion yen instead of 50 billion yen, which still seems like a lot.
This is microtransactions and all that nonsense. So Nintendo actually has some sort of limit. I don't know if it's a policy that they have laid out, but they went to these companies individually and they're like, no, this is too much. Dial that back. Not don't do this. Just, keep it to a slow boil. I think they moved the car a little bit.
Yeah, it's not as loud now.
You probably can't hear it now, but we still can. Amazon, perhaps following in Tesla's footsteps?
They're closing 87 pop-up kiosks. Now, technically, I guess, according to this article, they only opened those for the holiday season. The holiday season is over, so they're going to close.
This was just
such a waste.
This was to let you play with all of these little toys. In case it's like, hey, I'm thinking about getting this, but I want to actually touch it and see what it's like. You could go, I can't remember all the different places, Kohl's, and I think
isn't that what Best Buy's for?
Whole Foods. This was in malls and stuff. So
okay.
it was a place you're going to be anyway, and then maybe you go look at an Alexa or something like that.
Did you go to the mall for your Christmas shopping this year?
I've not been to the mall in a very
I did
long
not
time.
go.
I went to Amazon.
Amazon is just so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's probably why these kiosks maybe didn't do so well.
I love this picture because somebody
It's so angry.
somebody drew angry eyes on Amazon. That's a great one.
The
little
headline
one's
is
cute.
anti-vaccine movies disappear from Amazon after CNN business report. So yeah.
I kind of wonder with there's been a lot of things recently where they're removing or putting notifications on anti-vaccine stuff, which is good, but at the same time I wonder if that just make them stronger? They're censoring us, that just means it's true.
Well, but also it sets a precedent.
Yeah.
Because
I don't like that either.
The vaccine thing, there is a debate. Now, I'm not saying that one side of the debate has any validity, but there is a debate. There's a non-trivial amount of people who believe one way rather than the other. And if we just let Amazon apply that based on what they think, how far do they take that?
Yeah.
Too far. Too far.
I don't think Amazon has a big opinion on this. I think they're just like trying to get people to quit complaining.
I think
Good
Amazon
luck.
will, in the future, do whatever it takes to get more money because that is what they do.
You remember dating ourselves here? I'm sure Krista has no idea. Not only because she's younger, but because she never watches anything on TV.
That's true.
Remember Kreskin from Johnny Carson? Or maybe I'm getting the name wrong. The psychic guy.
Oh, yeah.
So he would hold the envelope up. This envelope would be 3 names you never want associated with healthcare.
Amazon's joint healthcare venture finally has a name. Haven. It's Bezos and Kaiser Permanente and something else. And
Jamie Dimon.
Jamie Dimon, yeah.
Here they are.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Warren Buffett, the Jeff Bezos and Jamie Dimon. Yeah, that's just really... So Kaiser Permanente, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Amazon's venture into healthcare. It doesn't seem like they want to necessarily start hospitals or be an insurance company or something like that, but they want to be an advocate for the patient for a monthly fee that I'm sure will come out of your... Maybe there'll be some Prime benefits here. I don't know. I like the idea of simplification of healthcare and insurance, but I don't think anything these people have touched has ever been good for the consumer. I say that as someone who has like 4 Amazon packages coming next week. I realize,
you're just like...
Yeah, I realize the hypocrisy, but...
Do you get like trashed on Friday night and just go on an Amazon spending spree?
No, I've... just like it's things that the ones I've been getting lately aren't even really exciting. No, I didn't buy those things from Amazon. Yeah, not super exciting.
Did you put them on your wish list and then you had to like kind of like marinate in that for a little bit and then be like, okay, I need that?
No, I bought some gun related items.
Oh.
Because here in Kentucky, constitutional carry is coming.
Ooh.
But Amazon won't sell you that. Here is a story that is perhaps one of the greatest examples of correlation is not causation. I don't know what Hot Hardware was thinking. This is so obvious.
Powerful PCs proven, quotation marks, to help players dominate in battle royale games like Apex Legends. So NVIDIA was like, hey, we need to know. And so the data shows that people that have 144 hertz monitors and super insanely high-end graphics cards generally,
good gaming chairs, right?
Yeah, generally have a better kill-death ratio.
Now I wonder, do you think it's possible that people with 144 hertz monitors and powerful graphics cards spend more time playing those games?
Yeah.
Well, they tried to quantify that, and they said that the hardware helped a lot, and then the play difference between somebody that spent a crazy amount of time playing versus somebody that spent too much time playing was not really all there. The big difference was hardware.
Do they control for age as well?
I don't think they have any way of knowing your age.
Now, I'm sure it does make a difference because at that level of play, the milliseconds start counting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there's something to it. But I'm also sure that, the weekend warrior with an average PC,
just SOL.
The real difference is the skill gap because the guy who's paying all that money is spending 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll tell you what. My machine is probably capable. The one we play on the Twitch stream with, it's certainly capable of 144 hertz. The monitor's not, but the machine certainly is. I'm terrible.
Yeah, it's like we played Apex Legends and all of us were bad at it.
Oh, so I think
so terrible.
We managed in 3 streams to get 6 kills each.
Yeah.
It was just
shockingly
sad. Yeah. So there's no amount of frames per second that's going to fix that.
Remove armor from shooting games.
The only way that we debased ourselves more was on the Ava Direct sponsored VR stream. Thanks, Ava Direct.
You can watch all those at our Team PGP.
If you want to see, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, a man who is second only to James Brown in natural rhythm. That's this guy right here. Well, how embarrassed are you that the TV in your home has exposed cables?
Just, I think about, I go to bed, but I can't sleep.
It is. It keeps me up at night, too. Soon, we will be saved.
Samsung patents a wireless TV with no power cable. So, yeah, they're going to beam the power to the TV with this little bar thingy.
I wonder if that will come with Amazon Healthcare for the oncologist that you're going to need 5 years after you start using that.
Maybe you develop lightning powers.
Please don't stick your head in the cancer zone while the TV is operating.
Don't let your cat nap directly between the box and the TV.
My granny growing up was always telling us to back away from the TV, but now her advice is truly relevant because you're not just trying to save your sight.
Could be. You remember when there was a time when blockchain, there were companies that would start up and just call themselves blockchain, and they had nothing to do with it, and they would be penny stocks that would triple overnight. Yeah, I think that's what's happening now with AI.
Nearly half of all AI startups are cashing in on the hype. So Forbes has this article about, hey, if you're investing, you should probably make sure that the company that claims it's doing stuff with AI actually is doing stuff with AI, because it's a trend. It's a trend.
And also, even if they're doing AI kind of stuff, the definition of AI is very loose right now. So
I actually know somebody that went to a company with a thing and was like, hey, we did this thing. And they're like, you're just a small company. There's no way that you did that. And so they didn't give them a contract. They went back the next year and were like, hey, we did that thing with AI. And it was like, oh, AI. And they gave him the contract. Yeah. And literally nothing changed from one year to the next. And the AI was not part of it. It was funny. And also very sad.
It's the world we live in.
You do those design changes sometimes too. I don't like this shade of green. It's like, okay, I changed it. Oh, it looks so much better, but you didn't really change it.
Oh, don't give them those secrets, Krista.
You don't always do that, but sometimes you can get away with it if a client's just you feel like they just needed to make a change. So,
if you are a prepper or someone who anticipates the eventual collapse of society, I think this puts Volvo out of the running for your car purchases.
I agree.
Volvo to impose 112 miles per hour speed limit on all new cars from 2020. Most of their cars can do 155, so they're going to put a governor in there that's like, nope.
Why even live?
Although this article did explain that in Europe, most of the highway speed limits are 80 miles per hour or equivalent of about 80 miles per hour. Here in the States, it's 65 to 70, so I feel like we're missing out.
What about the Autobahn?
I think, there's no set limit, but Germany still has a general recommendation of 80.
Yeah, that's for beginners.
Ryan's all about going fast.
We used to have, was it Montana or one of those states was just a phrase that was be sensible.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do that, but that would be cool to really open up. I don't think I will ever get my car to its top speed.
What is your car? I guess can you tell without?
It's 180. It's more than I'm comfortable doing.
It'd be fine.
VMware. Oh, you know what? I was getting ready to do an intro and then I clicked the button.
Aww. VMware Linux lawsuit moves closer to a resolution. For over a decade, VMware has been accused of illegally using Linux code in its VMware ESX bare metal virtual machine hypervisor. A German court has dismissed the case, but the struggle may not be over. So we're still waiting on a ruling here, but the VMK kernel extensions may be proprietary, maybe not. This is really just VMware did not have to integrate their extensions in the way that they did. They could have done it another way. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's a little disappointing because the GPL means that we should have source code to whatever it is that they've built, which would further the state of the art. But at the same time, if they want to do their code and keep it proprietary, they can. They just need to bundle it a different way.
And they're not even asking for damages or money here, which makes this ruling weird.
Yeah.
Because all they're saying is follow the rules of the GPL. That's all you got to do, bro. And VMware is working on changing it.
Doing it the right way.
So they don't use it, but they're not even close to having that done. Yeah. So
mm-hmm.
Sounds like they're just going to keep doing things as is until they finish that. and then we'll just forget this ever happened.
I hope this does not weaken the GPL. I think ultimately that the GPL will prevail. It's just that it's going to take a while.
Well, it was in Germany, so how can we expect them to ever make rational legal decisions? Machine learning. We've entered into the robot/AI section in case you didn't notice. And machine learning can use one of the most evil things for good.
Machine learning can use tweets to spot critical security flaws. Do what now?
Krista, check this one
This is
out.
I like animated. It's not something. It's not a step most places will take.
That eyeball, that's great.
I thought that was like
Is that its
radiation coming
brain?
out of his brain. Yeah.
Could be, but
I heard the prettiest bird outside of the grocery store earlier.
How could you hear beauty?
It sang a beautiful song. It was very loud.
But it could have been very ugly.
I don't know what kind of bird it was.
What if it was like trapped and that's why it was like...
No, I could see it flying. Might have been a mockingbird. I don't
What if
know.
it was tethered to the ground?
I watched him fly around for a minute.
So the idea here is that this thing looks at frequency and tone of tweets that have to do with security flaws and somehow predicts when they will hit the mainstream. And they used it on Spoiler, and we're pretty accurate.
Neat.
So
It's like it's a little bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force thing. It's like, oh, there's a disturbance in the Force, and then it's like, oh, there was a disturbance in the Force. There's a new exploit.
Except the Force was something that created balance within the universe, and
This is
Twitter is something that lets people seek attention.
And argue amongst themselves.
Oh yeah, a lot of trolling on Twitter.
Now this one, I was trying to quickly read these, and this was toward the end of my quickly reading when I knew I was running out of time and I was hungry. And I found this very hard to follow in terms of what exactly is going on here.
Researchers are training image-generating AI with fewer labels. So the idea here is that you have a set of data, like, oops, I hit the mic. You have a set of data like the Sci-Fi 10 data set, which is categorizes images as like planes and automobiles and fire trucks and whatever. And Sci-Fi 10 doesn't classify as fire trucks. But the more ways that those images are classified, the more the AI can learn. But with this, you can take some AI and that's already sort of trained and run it through with the images, and it will infer a lot of other stuff from the images. It doesn't have to explicitly be tagged. It will know that, you know, the fire trucks are red because all of the images of fire trucks have a lot of red in them.
Well, not necessarily, because you got this little yellow guy in here. So there's an example where you don't necessarily label all these things as fire trucks, but just because of their similarity, the AI can sort of figure out these are the same things.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm sure there's more to it than that.
Usually, but not always red. For
But-
example. That's the whole thing that AI can learn.
Anyway, it's probably good for us. Or bad, depending on which side of the AI fence that you're on. Are they going to kill us all? Or is it going to be the singularity?
And then kill us all.
And then we kill each other. How about something that would let AI use you and your data to learn, much like Mark Zuckerberg wants to do, but keep you anonymized? How would you feel about that?
Google tool lets any AI app learn without taking all of your data. TensorFlow Federated limits the impact of AI on your privacy. Now, I read this not as, like, I had a hard time figuring out how they actually got this out of this, because they gave one or two examples, but it seems like TensorFlow Federated, if you actually go read the thing, means that it's just that you can run TensorFlow on your local machine as well as like in the cloud.
Well, I think the idea is, what they're talking about here is when you run it locally, it can look at your data and report back something it learned from that to the larger AI.
But not about you specifically.
But it's never transfers your data.
Yeah.
So I guess, more. Although what it learns from your data could be more intrusive than the data itself.
Listen, all the people in this geographic area are so dumb, they're just taking up space and consuming resources. We just need to kill them all.
It's like we don't need...
That's what we learned.
We don't need to give you Krista's exact purchasing habits or email messages, but we will return that she has a 2-year plan to have a child.
I have Ruru.
fur baby?
I don't like that phrase.
You know what you said. Remember, speaking of murderous AI, remember Uber and the car that tasted the first blood? Was it an evil car? The court has ruled.
No, it is not. And Reuters has the article that talks about the history and that sort of thing if you're interested in that. But it's basically, no, the Uber is not liable. If anything, the driver is liable because the driver was playing with their phone.
Actually, they did recommend that charges could be brought again. They were watching The Voice.
Oh.
So
they weren't even watching good You can just listen to The Voice to tell if their voice is good.
No, you have to watch. So an episode of The Voice probably cost someone their life, and they're saying that there could be, it was like reckless endangerment or something like that.
Yeah, but not murder.
Well, it's true. You couldn't call it murder, but there was going to be like a hefty possible sentence from that. Yeah. I can't remember what it was.
Do you think the singers who are part of that show are like, my show's so good, someone died for it?
Yeah, I'd say probably
Indirectly.
They're just completely outside of the public awareness at this point, right? Because that was years ago.
It's a little angsty.
They still do The Voice, I think. It's still a show. I don't know if it's the same like judges.
Yeah, but those people are no longer. The judges, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, they don't. They've never given a second thought to the Uber murder.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little emo, like, this show so good, somebody would die. No, it's a little.
They drink
emo.
a little bit of youth blood.
News.sky.com is
not loading.
Currently down. Well,
It's
the article was thousands face an incorrect benefit cuts from an automated fraud detector.
Oh, this is an excellent article.
What do you think of this stock photo, chat?
So
clean.
So this is like an entitlement program where like you have unemployment and those kinds of things.
I think it had something to do with they have this weird system in Europe, or at least in Britain. The number of bedrooms in your house matters, and you can sublet, or you can get paid for having them or not having them or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think this is related to that.
So a bunch of people are going to be denied payments because the algorithm says, hey, this is probably fraud. So rather than like flagging for investigation, they're just going to deny everybody, and then you can maybe claw back your benefits.
I think they send you a letter, and then the burden of proof is on you.
Which seems like not the way to handle it. I mean, that's how YouTube does monetization. And so the way that it works for us is usually the video will be demonetized, and then it will get 99% of its views. And then by the time somebody gets around to looking at it, they're like, oh, you guys were just talking about the news. That's fine. And then we get 38 cents.
Oh, man.
Aces.
That'll
keep us afloat, though. Our editor will appreciate that bonus.
Level 1 Patreon.
We're going to have
or
to
Ko-fi.
Perform an emergency one tab
and
reload because
everything crashed.
Yeah. It's
even with the ad blocker.
This is a terrible thing. Krista, why don't you tell us about the new developments in Lord of the Rings Amazon?
Oh, it's Second Age. It's confirmed. They added Numenor to the map. Numenor's like the big empire of men. Like it's kind of like the Atlantis story of the Middle Earth universe.
What does this mean in terms of what we're going to be watching?
It depends on when they start the series. I've been thinking about this for a while. I got really excited the other night thinking about where they could go with it. If they start year zero, like right after the War of Wrath in the Second Age, they could start with like Elrond and Elros and like that relationship, and how does Elrond feel about Elros becoming a man instead of staying an elf, and how does Elrond become friends with Gil-galad, and like
wait a minute,
how does their relationship develop? And
are there a race transition in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, so their father and their mother were actually both half elven, and when they were born they were given a choice whether or not they wanted to be counted among the elves or among the men, and they both chose differently.
Wow, there's a lot of parallels to modern gender in that, isn't there?
That's why Arwen got to choose. That's Elrond's daughter.
At what age do you get to choose?
It's a little unclear, because like Arwen lived to be like in her late 2000s when she finally married Aragorn, and then it's like, oh, now you've made a choice. And I think it was like they got to make their choice up, and like as soon as their dad left, that's when they had to make a choice.
Could you be race fluid?
No.
I'm about to die as a man. I want to be an elf again.
No,
Sorry.
they make you pick a side. Like it's half elven is more of a title than than like you eventually have to pick one or the other.
Do you make more money as one or the other?
You probably make more as an elf because you live forever. So like you just acquire more wealth over time.
Well, wait a minute. So if you choose human, you don't live forever?
No.
What? How did they change that?
That's gonna be a big plot point in the Amazon series. You guys watch and see.
Oh, okay.
Numenor's whole thing is about we want to be immortal even though our forefather picked differently.
Well, do you know who else lives forever? Robots.
Oh, good segue.
MGM could replace many employees with robots. It's all the hospitality bots. Yeah, I think I've seen this on Futurama.
Well, they talked about cashiers,
Bellhops.
changing out to like chips and that kind of thing. Certain dealers could be replaced with robots. Although, how fun would it be to try to cheat a dealer robot?
I'm imagining like an Assaultron from Fallout dealing blackjack with like daggers.
And all of your in-room stuff would be done with an app instead of like communicating with a human being. So you just order up food through the app. So you don't have to have anything like a concierge or anything like that.
That would be cool. I could go for robot delivered, grilled cheese sandwiches or
It
whatever.
sounds interesting, yeah, but
Just getting wild in Vegas.
now they do have unions in Vegas. Unions are big in Vegas.
Uh,
So it'd be interesting to see what goes on with that. We know that robots can deal cards and cash out chips, but can they herd sheep?
it turns out that they can, as long as you make them bark like a dog.
Aw.
So these barking drones are used on farms instead of sheepdogs. No, this doesn't seem like a step forward.
Well, they interviewed this guy.
A lot more expensive, I would think.
So this thing just has a speaker mounted on it and a camera. And they talk about there's several benefits. The first benefit is if it's cold outside. And this guy was like, I hated getting out when it was cold and just going out to like observe the animals, make sure they were in the pen and inside the fence. Just fly the drone out. Just take a look at them. And the drone can bark, so it can herd them. He also said that the dog, some of the mother cows, when the dog got close to their babies, would try to attack the dog.
Yeah.
But they will not attack the drone.
It's interesting that it needs to bark because drones are really loud. Like when they're operating, there's. I would think that would scare sheep.
Or cows. They
The
have
cows are just
too.
like, no, they have air superiority. Don't provoke them.
Now he did say that of course you couldn't use this in high wind or rainy weather. So the poor dogs now, the
They
only
only get
time
out.
they get out is during rainy and
But-
high wind.
To be honest, like unless it's really cold, Rue generally likes to be out in the mud and the filth, so she probably would love
That's
that.
true, yeah. And they talk, and the really cold doesn't bother the drone, and they actually prefer that because the farmer doesn't want to go out there, or the rancher doesn't
Yeah.
want to go. So maybe the dog does have a better life.
Working a little less hard.
We'll see. How do you think Rue would do at herding?
I don't know if she has much of a prey drive. She likes birds a lot, and she likes to watch ducks. That's the lab in her, but I don't know if she'd be very good at herding.
She could herd ducks, maybe.
She'd probably just bring the duck back to you, 'cause that's what retrievers do. But
We have to press F to say goodnight to someone I've never heard of before. Have you?
yeah,
heard
I'd never seen
Yeah,
this.
I have seen this. Yeah.
of
Jibo, the social robot,
Is
announces
it Jibo or Jibo?
Jibo.
I like
that
Jibo better.
Announces that its VC overlords have remote kill switched it, and it makes a pathetic farewell address and dances a final step. So you have to listen to the video, and it's just like, tell your future robot companions about me. I'll see you later.
Aw.
So Jibo was part of a startup, and it didn't go well.
No.
They sort of wasted the money.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't a great idea to begin with,
No.
and so it's over. Who do you think gets to keep him?
Keep what?
The actual robot.
You get to keep your robot. Like you bought them. This is cloud services.
Oh, there was more than one of them?
Yeah. No, there was this they made a bunch of them. It was like $900, and
I
it's
didn't think they actually made them.
it's cloud connected, and the
Oh,
cloud
so if
service-
you have him, he just doesn't work anymore?
he will
Oh, that's bullshit.
like he'll do some things but not really. And see, the really terrible thing is they sold all the IP to some other company because they could have open sourced it. Like it's like, here's a firmware update that lets you just put in a Jibo server, and like you could run your own command and control server.
Who's the Chinese nephew that does all the...
Heesung.
Heesung is going to be working on taking over. Jibo's going to be like, trying to sell you stuff.
Greetings, human. I'm alive again. Would you like to mine some Bitcoin?
Aw.
Would
Jiva
you,
wouldn't
would you
want
enjoy
that.
a gross of fortune cookies? I could hook you up. This is my favorite stock photo of the week.
Is that a stock photo, you think?
Well, I mean, it's an actual photo of the thing.
Yeah.
The U.S. Army assures the public that its robot tank system adheres to the AI murder policy. And then the public was like, wait, what's the AI murder policy?
It's part of that secret
That's
database.
classified.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So they're talking about how there's this, I can't remember what the phrase is, but it's that whole idea of, yeah, the AI can kill something, but the final decision has to be a human. And I think you have to visually confirm.
Listen, no American citizen is ever going to be on any kind of list of dissidents or anything like that where they might be, misclassified as a terrorist or aiding and abetting terrorists. We would never deploy these on the border. It's totally just...
Yeah, and these, considering how small and maneuverable they are, they would never be put into inner cities to quell riots and dissent.
They've replaced the minigun with a water cannon. It's fine.
It's
Just
not
rubber
gonna hurt
bullets.
Can you imagine those little treads just going right up over someone?
If you're,
Just over their skull.
if you're watching from the
Oh.
UN, please send help.
We do not
UN
want
has
the
no
we don't want
power.
the UN to send out.
We need somebody.
They'll be
What's
sending
going
more
on?
robots.
I don't recognize this.
But yeah, we're working on it. This thing is called the Multi-Utility Tactical Transport, or MUT.
Aw, that's a cute name for
just
it.
like Rue.
Yeah,
Common shelter trash.
she is common shelter trash.
Just strap a minigun on her back. It'll be fine.
She would just starve her for attention for a couple of days and then send her out and she would run right to the enemy. Although I think it would have to be an explosive device. It couldn't be.
Aw. I'll go home and hug my dog now.
What a dark note.
43 minutes.
That was
You're
a long
welcome.
episode.
We'll see you Friday.
Bye. Hello, today is March 15th, and this is your reminder to pay your bills if you haven't already.
Also, there was probably some Tesla news today, but we don't care. We'll deal with that next week.
Yeah.
This is social media or Facebook news
Yeah.
and a little bit of nonsense.
Just sprinkled in.
Not a lot of nonsense. So I think people need to get on their nonsense.
It's been kind of quiet this week just with technology in general.
Yeah. Well, it's, people getting outside for the first time. They're like walking out into the light.
That's pretty much how I felt today. I was like, oh.
Winter is over.
And
getting
some of
there.
those people are going outside, but still taking their technology addiction with them.
Paris Street to shut out Instagrammers. The article goes on to describe that, but this is a really picturesque, pretty street in Paris.
Is
Yeah.
it?
No.
I mean, probably most of Paris looks something like that. But
One of the things that residents were complaining about was not just random people doing the cliche Instagram photos, but also apparently filming rap videos at all hours of the morning. And the residents are just like, no, we've had enough.
You know what's
What's
weird about
gangster
this
about
picture, though? Where are the yellow vests and burning cars?
you think Stacy's been here? Stacy, have you been here? Oh, yeah, she has. She
Yeah.
totally has.
She took a couple of selfies there. And
Repping the L1 merch.
she made a very unsavory Parisian man.
She didn't know he was unsavory.
I won't go further into it, but
That
to
hurts her
this
feelings. Shh.
to this day, she won't eat escargot. Let's just say that. And now, let's dive into the horrible nest of Facebook stories.
The walls are collapsing on Facebook. This is going to be the slowest burn ever. It's amazing. Facebook takes down fake account network used to spread hate in the UK. More than 100 false accounts posed as far right and left wing activists to sow division, says the company.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I have a theory that Crazy Eyes Cortez is being supported by these same people the same way that Trump was.
Or it's just, people arguing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why
just
it gets her name
keeping
in the
us
news.
at each other's throats because her popularity is she's in the news every single day now.
That's true. I see her on Reddit a lot.
And
I
they-
actually had to start logging back into Reddit because I couldn't stand it.
And they kind of left Trump we don't hear about him as much. So I think we're starting in now on the backswing from that.
From the other side. Oh, that's scary.
But they were doing the same thing here, and so it's just basically start arguments, which is very easy to do because people are very polarized. And I don't know what the end game is. Do you think it's the Russians? Chinese?
A natural consequence of the internet?
Well, it's just so well organized, though. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
like it's just...
It seems like anybody that is well-intentioned and actually is trying to make things better without, calling for dramatic change is just drowned out by all the insanity.
Yeah, well, actually, Cortez has spoken out against moderates. Like, who's left? You're either with me or against me, I guess. And maybe one way to fight against this type of thing, I don't know, let me see. Let me think a couple seconds here. What could we do? Maybe we could just stop using Facebook.
U.S. users are, in fact, leaving Facebook by the millions, according to Edison Research. So this may catch up with Facebook in the coming quarters, although so far it hadn't. We predicted that last quarter. It was like, oh, this is going to be a bloodbath. It wasn't. They had record profit.
They point out that was a global profit. This is the U.S., and it's mostly 12 to 34 years old.
Which is do we have any precocious people in the audience? Like, how's it going? Join the forums.
Krista, how does it feel to still be in that coveted demographic? Because Wendell and I are not.
I have to be in it for my family.
Do you feel powerful? I don't mean on Facebook. I mean 12 to 34.
Oh. I don't really feel powerful about it, no. 12 to 34.
You're squandering your youth. You'll look back on it someday and be like, I remember when I was in that demographic.
Well,
I remember when I was in that level 1 thing and it was so good.
Before the 2-year plan.
oh.
And then someday you'll be dead. But here's good news.
Well, let's not get too heady right now. That's too real.
Well, that's what the story's about.
Facebook is introducing a new tribute section for memorialized accounts.
So if you die, you live on forever on Facebook.
That already happens.
I feel like that's going to be a Black Mirror
Well,
episode.
they're changing it. So right now you'll have to go and make your comments on posts that those dead people made before they died. But now you can put it into tribute mode, and all comments after your death go into your memorial section.
Wow.
And you can have sort of conservators that you assign before you die.
Isn't that a Warhammer term?
Those are just servitors.
Oh, okay.
That would be the lobotomized brain of a human being that has been used to turn it into a robot.
Neat.
Because you can't have AI.
Yeah, because it's too dangerous.
That's heresy.
Anyway.
Another thing that Facebook has done, Krista, do you use two-factor on Facebook?
No.
Have you put your phone number in there?
No.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
I have no information on Facebook.
Facebook's phone number policy could push users to not trust two-factor authentication. So a lot of people are super upset because Facebook was data mining your phone number that was used for two-factor authentication.
And
it's a violation of trust, Facebook.
People can search
by your phone number. Yeah.
Even though it shouldn't be visible.
I don't have any of that. People actually complain like I looked forever to find you and I couldn't find you on Facebook because I don't even use my real name on there.
But you are so naive thinking that Facebook.
Oh, I'm sure Facebook can track me, but yeah.
there's that journalist working in Iran that, needs to stay undercover, and this has probably put them in danger. Good job on this policy, Facebook.
They're not backing down from it.
Yeah, they've doubled down on because people pointed out all the nightmare scenarios, and Facebook was just like, nah.
That sounds like a nightmare for you.
Yeah.
That's a problem for future Facebook's PR team.
I don't think you understand how much money we make. Well, we talked about Amazon. They're getting rid of all the anti-vaxxer movies, and Facebook says, I'll have a place on that bandwagon, sir.
Facebook announces anti-vax crackdown will block ads with vaccine misinformation. So who runs an ad with vaccine misinformation? This seemed like, at first it was like, okay, cool. And then I thought, these people don't have money.
That's the same people who are doing the misinformation and, the Cortez stuff. I mean, why not? That is you don't think about it like that because you're not part of that world. None of us are. But that is a hotly contested thing on Facebook. So you really can keep people fighting.
I see it. It's weird because I'm a churchgoer, so you'd think that maybe there'd be a few people who are but I don't know any anti-vaxxers. I'm also kind of crunchy and I like to hike and stuff, and I don't know any anti-vaxxers from that group either.
Crunchy?
Who are they?
Crunchy?
Have you never heard that term?
What
for
does
a
that
hippie,
mean?
like someone they're kind of
Is
crunchy
that sort
granola.
of like granola?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I don't know anyone who's anti-vax from any of my friend groups.
Well,
Who are they?
there are a lot of those people, and I think they are among that demographic that you're talking about.
Dozens of us, literally.
Well, yeah,
dozens.
it's either like the hyper liberal or the hyper conservative. Like,
But here's the thing: I think it's overstated the same way all those other things are. It's being kept alive by a lot of these shit stirrers.
There's a handful of idiots that are about this, and that handful of idiots is keeping millions of people stirred up because it's like this is just
maybe it's just a product of wanting attention, and it's like, oh, people will
so scary.
care about my opinion about.
But
this.
it's also the whole social media thing gave those people a voice where they didn't have it before.
Yeah.
Or they had a very small one. So
Disappointing.
Zuckerberg has come out and made some policy decisions about Facebook, as well as writing an interesting essay about privacy.
Mark Zuckerberg says Facebook will shift to emphasize encrypted messages.
It's emphasize
ephemeral.
encrypted ephemeral messages.
You didn't know how to pronounce it.
No.
I wasn't sure if it was. I think it's ephemeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, meaning they will go away at some point.
But
Someone was really proud of the alliteration in that title.
let's be clear here. The encrypted messages are not between you and your friend. It's between you, Facebook, and your friend.
Well, obviously, like those pictures where you have all the different occupations doing their thing, and Jesus is behind them with his hand on their shoulder. That's Zuckerberg in his mind. Like that's what he wants the world to be. And toward that point, he wrote this privacy essay.
Zuckerberg's new privacy essay shows why Facebook needs to be broken up. So if you don't do anything else this week with regard to the news stories or click the links, or you're not usually one, you need to just go listen to this thing because it's like 3,500 words of just pure unbridled insanity.
This is a great stock photo too, because he's sort of like peeking out.
Yeah.
Looking
I
out.
was really hoping it'd be like a parallax effect, so like his eyes would just kind of slowly like come up,
But this is kind of what we're talking about. Zuckerberg's idea of privacy is
Not what yours is at all.
end to end, but he's on both ends. So Facebook still gets to look at everything. It's just those pesky outsiders that you'll hide it from.
it's you, Facebook, and 100 of Facebook's closest friends and business confidants. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, they're going to anonymize that. before
Yeah.
they sell it. They're going to sell it, but yeah.
They're going to go to Pfizer and be like, look, I think we've got like 500 people that really want to buy your new drug. You want to buy some ads?
Do you think he showed that essay to like his wife or someone? He was like, "What do you think?" And she was like, "I don't know if this makes the point you're hoping to make."
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know. I think everybody in that inner circle is so afraid of him, and they know how crazy he is that nobody's telling him no.
He was trying to like dispassionately tell it like it is, like, or how it will be, but with like not actually having any connection to reality.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because he is currently powerful enough to do this, but he is making all the wrong choices, it seems. So how long does he have?
Yeah, the walls are closing in fast.
And what will he do when it all starts to fail? Is he going to be like
It's gonna
Samson?
spurge out, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he also spoke to a group and said something that they all found very surprising, considering all this privacy stuff.
He wants Facebook to build a mind reading machine. So your thoughts translated into the machine, and then there it is.
How about this one, Chris?
Is
Do you
he,
like
is
this
he
photo?
going full Musk right here with the mind reading machine?
Well, they talked about he sort of wasn't really even prompted to talk about this, but he started talking about breaking down the like communicating directly, interfacing directly with a computer. But it was during a talk where they had obviously been talking about privacy, and immediately they started being like, "Well, wouldn't that erase all privacy if you had that? What about a courtroom? What about the Fifth Amendment?" And he was just like, "Oh yeah, I guess that would be weird, wouldn't it?"
Bless his heart. He's such a robot that like he's looking for any avenue to like understand the human experience. And he's like, maybe if I had some sort of way of like translating human thoughts into computer language, I could understand. But
I'm pretty sure that he's just one step away from that guy that's in the movies, the Hannibal Lecter guy. It's like, oh, maybe if I eat their brain, I'll understand how they think.
But I think Hannibal
that was like
Lecter
a thing in
had
Heroes too.
he had an amazing insight into human psychology,
Yeah.
whereas Zuckerberg has almost none.
Well, is it from eating all the brains?
Listen, if Zuckerberg wanted to eat a brain, he would have already had tons of brains.
You probably fed one to Jack Dorsey.
He doesn't. he doesn't realize it. That's the thing yet.
There would be a group of mercenaries scouring street urchins and for him to eat their brain. That might even
Some
be
people might
happening.
volunteer.
Huh? Why not? How many
Why not?
how many likes do you think you could get for letting Zuckerberg eat your brain?
Chat, would you let him eat your brain engagement challenge?
I don't think anybody would let Zuckerberg eat their brain. I bet there are a couple people in the audience that would let Musk eat their brains
Yeah.
for the cause.
It's like, we're gonna get to Mars if you let me eat your brain. Okay, sounds good.
Do I get to drive in the Model S first?
Sure thing, bud.
Well, moving on to nonsense, and our first nonsense story, it seems somewhat dark, but it also maybe
I think this kind of makes sense.
blows things a little out of proportion.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars may hit people with darker skin more often because the vision system can't see them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I don't think this is necessarily like I could see it at nighttime.
Well, there goes the monetization.
Well, at
We're
night
obviously racist.
at nighttime, someone with dark skin is gonna blend into the darkness of the night a little bit better than someone who's like a flashlight pale, like me.
Yeah, well, they talk about it's not. I mean, visible light doesn't affect these things. It's like even the lidar isn't as good in these types of situations. Now, what if we had some sort of government registry to identify all of the really dark-skinned people, and we give them like a really reflective armband?
Yikes.
You think anybody would see anything wrong with that?
On a somewhat related
Is
note,
that not a good solution?
there's a couple roads here in the city we live in where like there's a lot of cyclists and people who walk, which is fine, but they'll do it right at dusk or when it's really dark, and they don't wear anything reflective or any kind of light, and they'll just loom up out of the darkness. And
Yeah,
it's like,
but
oh, what are you
here's-
doing on the shoulder? It scares me every time.
Here's the difference, Krista. People with dark skin, their lives have value.
other than people who are cycling at night.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
How much would you hate me if I started cycling to work?
Well,
I like
see,
that you're
but
like,
if you're doing it, like if you would have to do it, if you didn't have any other way to get somewhere. But since you own a car, no, that's not acceptable.
oh. I have thought about getting a bike.
If you own a car and you can afford the gasoline and all that, I mean, if you have to do it, okay, I'm going to give you some leeway. But if you put on your little spandex suit and your little pointy helmet and you're just doing it to have a good time, no.
No fun allowed.
Now, SiliconValley.com appears to have employed my favorite reporter, Captain Obvious.
Racism, misogyny, and death threats. Why can't the booming video game industry curb toxicity? I don't
I like there's a
understand.
picture of Overwatch that's just so appropriate.
There's a great way to get the toxicity out, and that is to get the people off the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually issue bans every now and then.
But in every kind of, apparently, these people, these reporters, need to go to a Major League Baseball game and sit in the cheap seats.
Yeah.
Because guess what there's a lot of? Racism and misogyny and death threats. Any kind of competition. And these are people who aren't even competing. They're just watching other people compete. It's always been in video games, ever since we had online play, and even before.
Go watch a large popular streamer. Their chat is out of control.
Yeah,
my
people
gosh.
are just horrible, and it has nothing to do with video gaming.
Overwatch League can be pretty brutal if you read the chat on that as well.
But, they posted all this various stuff about, it's like, all these poor streamer girls, and it's not just girls, obviously. And,
I mean, depending on the game, it can get a little worse, I think.
Like this kind of stuff. Again, it's always existed. There's nothing you can do to stop it.
Why not just, I wish that reporting would do stuff more often, though. Like in Overwatch, it's frustrating.
Blizzard
When you
actually-
report someone who you've been in a game with 3 times and nothing happens.
Blizzard will actually take some action sometimes, but it's
It's like a
kind of-
24-hour ban, and then they're back in your game, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
how about, now they describe this as robot video. I don't think that's a good description here. This is simply remote video. But what news is too bad to be shown over video?
There's no lung left. Man told he's gonna die by doctor on robot video. I thought about this from my own perspective. Like if I was in the hospital and I was dying because my lungs are disintegrating and it's like I knew this was the end. I don't think I would mind this. If the doctor rolled up on one of these things and was like, "Hey, how's it going? Yeah, remember me? I'm your doctor."
I think I'd be more upset if they didn't tell me.
Well, no,
like, you know, if it was like a matter of time, it's like, well, I could wait a week until they come into my office, or...
Well, that's the thing. Like, what if you have a really good doctor who can spend that time saving lives?
Yeah.
But you have a really personable doctor, and his whole job sometimes is just to try to let you down easy. Well, you know, because you got like a Dr. House who's not going to be very friendly telling you that you're going to die. But then you got Dr. Bob here who's just going to be like, oh, listen. Now, they did point out that the guy couldn't hear very well.
Oh.
And the robot couldn't navigate to like get right next to him. So robot doctor had to tell the daughter, who then was like, "You're gonna die, Pop," you know, because he couldn't hear the robot at all. Which
That makes it a little kind of crappy.
Yeah,
But,
that's a little weird, but
I would think, like, if you know you're gonna die and like you get told earlier than you would if you'd waited to do a doctor's appointment, it's like, well, at least now you have that time to maybe enjoy yourself.
well, this guy had
2 days.
like
Oh.
they were talking about hospice care, and this doctor was incredibly frank, and he was just like, "I don't think we're gonna have to plan hospice care. I don't think that's gonna be an issue."
Well, again though, like there's other considerations other than just emotional there, like financial as well. It's like don't book hospice care.
I'd also point out this was Kaiser Permanente because Kaiser Permanente.
Don't start any 500-piece puzzles. You're never going to see Captain Marvel.
The end of Game of Thrones. Oh.
Here's a question. What do you do when someone takes away your PS4?
I say I'm an adult, so why did you take that from me?
Well, what if you were a kid, though? When you were a kid, what did you
I
do?
just accepted whatever punishment I was doled out.
Incorrect.
Because I usually deserved it.
This state trooper was shot by his 11-year-old son because video games were taken away. I think there might have been some discipline issues in that house.
Well, not only discipline issues, but somehow the gun was in the cruiser while this guy was in bed, and the kid got into the cruiser, so the keys were available to the kid.
That's like bizarrely premeditated. That's not like a crime of passion. That's like, I need to go get the gun out of my dad's
No.
car.
The kid knew exactly what he was doing.
The kid
Yeah.
talking to the police was just, like super premeditated, and the kid talking to the police said something to the effect of like, "Oh yeah, if I don't get a computer and all this other stuff, there's going to be a part 2."
He wanted a PS4, an Xbox, and a gaming PC, and he wanted them that day,
Wow.
or there would be a quote-unquote part 2.
Clearly, not
That
a kid
kid,
who understands reality.
That's either very bad parenting or like psychological issues that most parents are probably not prepared to deal with.
Yeah, you get the impression that the parenting was very, very incorrectly done here, and plus having the gun in the car.
That is
maybe-
bizarre.
Maybe he thought
Why
he
would
was
it not be
keeping it
locked
away
up
from the
or
kid.
with you? Yeah.
Now, here's the hilarious thing. So the kid, he said he stood in the bedroom and waited for the dad to turn over because he couldn't bear the thought of shooting him in the face. He wanted to shoot him in the back.
Oh.
And shot him. And I imagine the kid had never fired a gun. And if you've never fired a gun, the
recoil.
recoil is going to freak you out. So he dropped the gun. But then he had his BB gun and the dad's taser that he also got from the car. And he holed himself up in his room waiting for the inevitable conclusion of whatever happened there. So,
Don't do that.
Is his mom not in the picture? Like, what?
the mom ran in and found the gun, and she saw him running upstairs with the taser,
And she locked herself in her room.
because she knew this kid was crazy. Right? I mean,
Jeez.
you have to know that something's up with your kid. If you immediately your reaction to seeing him is lock yourself in your room.
That seems like sociopathic. Like, I can't imagine a world where that would exist, but
Yeah, that's a broken family, I think.
yeah. Well, I'm thinking just the kid mentally. There's something. I mean, that's not just a discipline problem. That's like a mental health issue somewhere.
I hope this is not going to be a data point for video games are bad.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't-
Well, but did he have the video games? Oh yeah, they got taken away, right? So
That's what made him upset. Yeah.
That's what made him, no. That's not how that works.
I'm all for keeping kids away from video games. You want to solve the toxicity problem from before? In one sweeping motion, get rid of kids.
That wouldn't get rid of the problem. I've seen some grown ass adults start screaming in Overwatch. I had to like put on my teacher voice and be like,
But
"Hey, why don't we stop arguing?
But that's probably because the kids were beating them.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'll be good at Apex Legends again.
Oh. And that's really the world we want to live
Imagine
in.
how good I'll feel about myself. Now, if you've ever done any programming, you have discovered the infinite loop. It's something that you have to experience it. Now, I feel like there were probably some Japanese authority here who have a very limited understanding of this concept.
Yes. JavaScript infinite alert prank lands 13-year-old Japanese girl in hot water. Oh no.
I remember this from when I was a kid and first getting on the internet. I got on a site and it was just infinite pop-ups, and I couldn't close the window, and I was like, oh no, mom's gonna yell at me because I'm gonna destroy our first computer.
Well,
so I had to shut it down and restart, and it was fine.
There's the classic one that repositions the window every time you mouse over.
Oh yeah, I remember that one too.
Yeah. So this is nothing new, and it's
very
actually
sad.
very, very simple.
She's gonna be scarred for life.
It's like that was popular in the late 90s.
Right, and she posted it online, and she's being blamed for, quote unquote, spreading this malware. I guess
It's not
they
malware,
designate.
even though it's just a website.
Yeah. This is dumb. This
And
is
they,
really dumb.
of course, most modern browsers have some sort of built-in solution for this, because they will detect when JavaScript is stalling out a tab and give you a solution to it.
Notch or some famous programmer needs to call up this girl and take her on, do something to undo the horrible damage here, because she's going to be scarred for life. This is terrible. It's like, she's
These
never
aren't
going to
even
touch a
hard to
computer
implement,
again.
though. Yeah, I don't.
She might be banned from touching computers.
Aw.
That's a tragedy. That's a terrible tragedy.
That's not.
This is legit funny. This is not anything to worry about.
Women in STEM. This is not how you get more women in STEM.
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah. If anything, this should be encouraged because it is clever and funny.
Do you remember Gamergate?
No.
Ages ago,
Oh, that was a good time, wasn't it? And
when the chick who made the game what turned out to be sleeping with journalists or
so
something.
Brianna Wu kind of made a name for herself off of all that, and she tried to run for political office. Thank God she failed. But what? She's back, and she wants to be president.
2020 congressional candidate calls for governmental legislation in response to negative Captain Marvel reviews.
Congress, not president.
Yeah, so I read
Just,
this. It's just, come on now.
I have to go.
Really?
I'm gonna go enjoy the sunlight and get away from the news because that is batshit
Krista,
insane.
she represents your gender. You have to support her.
Ajit Pai represents yours. What does that say?
So yeah, the Captain Marvel thing. Now, we talked about last week Rotten Tomatoes changing their policy. They also removed 30,000 reviews in order to get Captain Marvel into a positive score.
Wow.
Yeah. The user reviews for Captain Marvel were at 30-some%. They mysteriously jumped into the 50s, but a lot of people have gone through and found identical bot reviews, positive bot reviews.
I don't really care about the movie. I'm not planning on seeing it, but I kind of want to know whether or not it's actually good or not. But you can't tell because there's people who are
Yes, because
manipulating it either way. And
It
it's
is politicized, and she believes that the government should get more involved in this process.
That's really horrifying because the government really, they need, no.
Hey guys, it's 70 degrees out. It's beautiful. Let's just get up and walk away because that's the most absurd thing
We
I've
haven't
heard.
hit the 30-minute mark yet, Crystal. We got to give them.
We do have a few more stories left.
We
4
got
more
3
minutes.
more. We got to stretch these out.
No, and there's plenty there. There's the next couple stories. There's a lot to talk
These
about.
are some of the more entertaining ones. I've backloaded the entertainment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know what state she's running in, but if you see her on your congressional ticket, I'm going to encourage you to vote the other direction.
The government needs to oversee movie reviews.
Now I know I'm telling you to blindly vote and I don't know who the other person is, but if on the other checkbox it's not the reanimated corpse of Hitler, I think we're safe to say it's going to be a better choice. If it's not Mark Zuckerberg. Speaking of Mark Zuckerberg, we must preserve his life at any cost. I think we can all agree on that, right?
His life? You mean his power supply?
So what? What do you do when the Zuck is threatened?
His conference room has a secret panic chute, a report says.
This is from Fox News, which makes me wonder what their source was, but
So in the conference room, there's a chute So like he can presumably hit the button, a hole opens up in the floor, and he can slide away
But
to safety.
I like this fan fiction enough that I'm going to believe it.
Well, they also talk about it's a glass conference room, and the glass is like bulletproof rated up to whatever the.
Or I could see bulletproof glass maybe, but like
And,
a chute.
His home. They talk about his home is under constant armed guard.
Again, like those things, but a panic chute.
There's a quote in there that's like he's got a Praetorian guard for in case there's an internal threat, like an employee all hands meeting or whatever. And I was reading that and I was like, oh my gosh, Mark Zuckerberg is a Romulan. Romulans have Praetorian guards. It all makes sense now. It all makes sense. He's a Romulan.
You know how when I talk about Lord of the Rings, your eyes kind of glaze over? That's what this is.
You know who else had a Praetorian guard that might actually be more of what they were referring to there? The Romans.
Yeah. That might be where the terminology is borrowed.
Do you think the Romulans may have borrowed from that? Here's the best question.
They're a real society.
What angle of, like, what grade do you think the chute is?
Oh, I think at first it's very steep, but it's been carefully engineered to slow him down as he moves through the floors in the building.
He actually uses it more like a charging thing because, like, the static electricity just kind of.
Fun fact, it's a copper tube, and because he is ferrous, it slows him down naturally as he descends down the tube.
What's in the bottom? Like, is it like a bunker, you think? With, like, freeze-dried meals? What's at the bottom of the chute?
That's a good question.
Do you think it's just full of marshmallow cereal?
Like the security office on the first floor has like an air vent that's not an air vent, and it pops open, and the security people are like, "Oh, that's your 5-second warning. Zuck's about to pop out of the ceiling."
Probably, it's probably the brains of those street urchins that we talked about.
I like my theory of marshmallow cereal, and like he just falls, he's like, okay, and then he just starts swimming through the Lucky Charms.
He doesn't eat it; he just swims through it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how would you like to? Remember, like Tamagotchi, the little
Where you
Neopets,
take care of you, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
And then that sort of moved on, and we have all these like
Those were expensive.
Pokemon. I guess is sort of a fallout from that. But you always wanted to take care of virtual pets. How about real life cows?
Move, get it over LTE. Me plus Moo uses 5G to connect you to a real life cow.
That's something.
So yeah, you get on the little app here, and they're actual cows.
One of them had her bio was, I like to break out of the barn at night with some other cow, and we go stare at the sky.
Oh, that's cute.
Like,
Probably delicious cows though.
What? So that's a good question. What happens when these cows are these milk cows or?
I would assume they're probably dairy cow. Yeah.
When I first read this headline, I thought the story was going to be because you know how we have to have those 5G antennas. I thought they were just going to put them around a cow's neck. We're going to have this like horrible cancerous cows.
Oh. So you talk about Neopets. I can't remember if I told my best friend's deepest, darkest secret. She's still playing Neopets.
Wow.
And she may have spent a little bit of money to get some virtual items in the Neopet store for her pets.
Wow.
So that's
She was like showing me all of her stuff. And like Neopets, their website has not changed in years.
But
it's
is
like
that
exactly the same?
Is that an app now?
No, like the website is probably still optimized for like 1064 by 800. Like it's very small. And
Did those things, they just ran on the like replaceable batteries, right? So you don't
oh
have
no,
to
the Neopets was an online thing.
Oh.
Like that was like late 90s. Everyone had a Neopet. I had like a little goat creature, but I didn't really have the time or the good enough internet connection to devote to it.
For God's sakes, don't show her crypto kitties.
Yeah, so she.
Well, there's got to be
she's still playing Neopets.
There's got to be an app for that now, right? Somebody's got to have to have done that.
I would think, but I mean, like the Neopet stuff, like I said, it's probably not been revamped in like 20 years. It looks almost exactly the same.
You think there's like a PayPal account somewhere, and somebody got that email and they're like, "What?" And then they called up whoever. It's like, dude, you're not gonna believe this. Somebody just bought something on the Neopet store.
She's like, no, look at this person. She's like, I'm friends with them. They have all these unique items and stuff. And she's like, they've probably spent hundreds of dollars. She's like, I've spent like maybe 20. And I'm like, you're kind of like justifying to me right now. And she's like, I know. She's like, I had to stop. It's
Maybe you
crazy.
should-
I just told her darkest secret.
Maybe
Sorry,
you should
Holly.
talk her into getting an actual pet.
She has 2 chinchillas and a dog.
She probably ignores them. The dog's probably like, please feed me. And she's like, oh, no, not right now, dog.
No, Benny's like, he's a little tiny chihuahua sort of dog.
That's not a dog. That's another chinchilla.
He's very old too. So he don't care. Like, she was excited when we all went camping last year, and she was like, oh, he's going to love it. And he just slept in his dog bed the whole time. He was over it. Anyway, sorry. That was a long tangent. I've just added some more time onto the news.
A lot of people, and we've talked about this a lot, they love to brag about their crimes on social media. And you would think after the first person got arrested for bragging about crime on social media, other criminals on social media would be like, I should stop doing that. But they don't.
Rapper Self-Made Cash, who wears gold credit card necklace, I don't know, whatever. Charged with credit card theft.
Yeah, see his necklace?
Yeah, it's a little.
It's a credit card.
Wow.
It's like a backwards credit card, so he can stamp it, which is weird.
I don't think it's real because that would be so easy to steal, right?
Yeah.
And he himself is, a credit card thief.
Yeah, that's what he's been charged with. Fraud and a whole bunch of other things.
So he raps about stealing credit cards.
Wire
It's just
fraud,
art, man.
aggravated identity theft, and possession of an unauthorized access device.
He raps about stealing credit cards and how to use them. He also offers you can pay him and he will give you tips on stealing credit cards.
That's just so stupid.
And he's been arrested, let's reiterate, for stealing credit cards.
What is Michigan? Detroit, Michigan. So I got to go there for PingoCon soon.
Well, you better guard your credit card.
His entourage will be in attendance.
It is funny how, back in my day, when I listened to rap, it was all about crack. But now they've gotten
And
into
gang
stealing.
fights.
It's amazing how the crimes that are in gangster rap have, they've become
the
modern.
culture shift, yeah.
You think we will ever see a rapper who raps about like harvesting and selling personal data?
Do you think we'll ever see a raptor who...
A raptor.
A raptor.
Raptor.
Oh, it's my
Do
phobia.
you think we'll ever see a raptor rap? I did it again. Something is wrong with my speech center. It's
I'm
broken.
having a stroke.
Do you think we'll ever see a rapper who preys on smaller birds?
Yeah, there we go.
What was your thing?
It was a rapper that was going to be running like Amazon or Kaiser Permanente or something like that, because those are the criminal king. Jamie Dimon rapper.
I don't think
Those are the master criminals these days.
I don't think Jamie Dimon has any flow at all.
Not like you. Not like Wendell playing VR, which we'll be playing tonight.
What about one who deploys ransomware?
Oh yeah, that's a pretty cool criminal enterprise. Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's rapping about it. So those of you out there in the audience, you're thinking, how am I going to make a name for myself in the rap game? We've just given you 2 incredible ideas.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.